You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
We are the Mad Men of Masculinity.
Your home for healthy masculinity. We're just real men having real conversations for you.
Oh yeah, it's that time again.
Hey, I am Kirk M. Samuels.
And I am Jason B. Kendrick.
And we are the Mad Men of Masculinity, baby.
That's right. We're just real men having real conversations for you. Right here on your home for healthy masculinity. I got something on my arm. Oh, I need to wash myself. Goodness.
And we got a little bit of struggle stream going on today. Looks like this evening we got a little bit of lag time and all that kind of stuff. But we're gonna do our thing, man. I think we need to take up a collection or offering or a GoFundMe or something like that to get us some new laptops or something like. Maybe that's the problem. Maybe it's laptops. I don't know, man.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we got it plugged in straight to the modem. Everything should be going good. So it must be the laptops because it's not us. We're on time. We're here. We're doing our thing.
Hey, want somebody out there like gift us some laptops, gift us some, sponsor some laptops for your boys, man. We out here trying to do good things, man.
Yeah, and
you gave us
this
some
lag
laptops.
is messing with us. Yeah, I mean this lag is messing with us. It's like messing with the message.
Yeah, it'll get better though. It always does. The longer we're on here, the better it gets better. So here in a couple minutes, it'll be we should be done struggle streaming here in a couple minutes.
Yeah. So diving into this topic, I know we've already had comments on what we posted about the stream, and so the genesis of this was I saw a post, and I don't remember who it was. I was looking for it all day, and I couldn't find it. It's one of those reels that came and went. But a guy was talking about how men and women are kind of like 3D glasses. Now, if you're old like us, you remember the old 3D glasses where one lens was blue, one lens was red.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look through one lens, you want to look through the blue lens, you only saw the red. When you look through the red lens, you only saw the blue stuff. And the concept is the masculine and the feminine, we see through different lenses, and we need both of us to see the whole of reality. So that's why it's not about competing, it's about completing. That's why men and women need to come together and start talking to each other, because men do not understand a lot of the women's lens. We don't understand a lot of the emotional stuff, a lot of the intuitive stuff, a lot of the subtle stuff. And men are much more logical, linear, foundational, like, straight to the point. So they see from it through a different lens. And that's why we need both the feminine and the masculine lens to come together to really promote what reality is, so you can see the full lens.
And I think, man, this couldn't be more true in our culture. I mean, I think we live in kind of a divide and conquer presidential election about to happen, and Congress and Senate and all this other kind of stuff. And it seems like, kind of the flavor of the times is to divide and conquer. And I think a lot of times we even, experience this in our culture between men and women. It's almost like if you ask men what's going on in our culture, especially like in a dating and relationship realm, you ask men what's going on and you get one story. You ask women what's going on and they get like a completely different story. And so, I think it's perspective. And I think a lot of that is we got to understand that the stuff that comes along our timeline, the stuff that shows up in our feed, whether it be social media or just the things that we see on a daily basis, that kind of stuff is curated, man. And a lot of the comments and opinions, and if you go on dating websites, you see a lot of the same stuff. And we got to understand that that we do see things differently, but that doesn't mean that we have to be adversarial about whatever the mutual experience is, man. I think even though we see things differently, we got to recognize the fact that the masculine needs the feminine and the feminine needs the masculine. The masculine needs the feminine for the full expression of what the masculine can be, and the feminine needs the masculine for the full expression of what the feminine should be and or could be. And so we gotta sometimes we gotta step back and we gotta hit the reset button and say, okay, maybe it ain't just them. Maybe it's us, whoever us is and whoever them is.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about that analogy, I know nowadays they got the new 3D glasses and they're the same color, whatever. But back in the day, if you were just looking through one side, you're just looking through the blue lens, you'd only see the red pop out. If you're just looking through the red lens, you don't see the blue pop out because each lens cancels the other color. So it's analogous to how men and women are nowadays. If we're only focused on the masculine side, we're not understanding and seeing the feminine side. If they're only focused on the feminine side, we're not seeing the masculine side. And that's why we need each other, because to see the full picture, to see the whole width and breadth of reality, we need both sides. Because I mean, we just did the WTF, ladies episode talking about, a lot of times you're being emotionally manipulated and you need a guy to go, okay, let's not get stuck in the emotions. Let's look at, the linear logical kind of reality of things. Well, on the same side, men need the ladies because we miss all the subtle emotional things that ladies just get intuitively. And we need each other so we can get a full picture. But when we're battling
Mhm.
against each other, when
Yeah.
we're not
Yeah.
against each other, we're missing half the picture.
Yeah. I would probably say, as much as I absolutely hate the phrase, as much as I mean, the phrase is the bane of my existence. And you know what phrase I'm going to, if you know me at all. I hate the phrase, it goes both ways. I hate that because normally somebody says that when somebody is trying to, like, if a guy is speaking from the masculine perspective about what his experience is, or a woman is speaking, from the feminine perspective about what her experience is. That's normally when you hear, well, it goes both ways, which normally means you aren't listening. It means you ain't listening to what the other person's saying. You just kind of listen to respond, and you looking for yourself in somebody else's perspective. And so that's why I hate that phrase, because normally when it's used, when people say it, it's because somebody is trying to tell you where they're coming from. And we need to be able to just sit back and listen. And we need to be able to just say, okay, that's your experience, without trying to rebut it, without trying to, to say that ain't right or that's wrong or whatever you want to call it. And again, I'm speaking specifically from men to women. Um, we need to be able to hear that kind of stuff. And I guess to some degree, it also goes to the bigger vision of culture and society too. But this is, I said all that to say, this is one of those scenarios where I really do think it. I mean, it goes both ways. I mean, it's one of those that men, we need to listen to women, and, like, wow, for real, men are like that out there. And women, you need to listen to men when men say how it is out there, because it may not be you, but if they're seeing the same thing over and over again, it's probably a lot of your friends.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about it quite a bit, but one of the reasons I think it's one of the reasons we have such a large feminine, female audience for this podcast. I mean, it's a healthy masculinity podcast, but majority, for the most part, of our natural, just, organic viewers are ladies, because they finally realized that maybe they need to understand what men are thinking about, or maybe they need to understand where men's heads are at. And it goes the same way for guys. We need to understand where ladies' heads are at, not take it so personally, and try to take it in as information, because they see things in a completely different way. And I just love that 3D glasses analogy, because if you can adopt that, you can realize, okay, as a man, I'm seeing through the blue lens. So I only see what the blue lens shows me. Now, the ladies are seeing through the red lens. They only see what the red lens shows them. And we need both of those lenses to see the full picture, but we're not getting that because live in our echo chambers. We live in our little social media curated society and mindset of, this is what I agree with, so this is all I want to listen to. Well, in any healthy relationship, you need both sides. And we just did the episode where we're talking about, you know, not having a masculine influence in the home, how detrimental that is to the children. And we're seeing it out in schools and things where little boys are not being allowed to be little boys so they can learn what they need to learn. They're being told they need to be more like little girls. Well, they're not getting that blue lens and learning what it is to be a little boy. Whereas, they're just being taught, oh, well, no, you need to learn what the red lens says. And so they're missing half the picture. But it goes, like you said, it goes both ways. We need to be able to see and understand both sides so that we can get a clearer picture of what reality is. Because from what I see and from what Kirk sees and from our masculine perspective, we see it a certain way. And we need that feminine perspective to show us, hey, there's other aspects to this that you're not getting. And so we need to come together and start talking about these things instead of canceling each other and shutting each other down and say, no, tell me your perspective, show me what you see, because I'm only seeing my side of things.
Yeah, first of all, we only got like a few minutes left in this show. I would love to hear anybody's comments out there. If you got some thoughts, some comments, feel free to type it in. If we're still live, JBK will put you on the screen, make you famous. We'd love to hear what you think. If we're not still live, you can still comment. We'll still see it even after the fact. We'd love to hear what you think. Are we on to something? Are we off base? I mean, do you disagree? We're okay with that. I think in the context of Mad Men of Masculinity, madmenradio.com, by the way. I think in the context of this, we generally have conversations from the male point of view because you don't hear a lot of the male point of view in the media space. You got the View on TV, you got the Talk, you got the whatever. There's a bunch of women spitting around and talking about stuff from the female perspective, and that's cool. I mean, the reason that is because women tend to support women things, and women tend to consume an audience for men sitting around talking. And so, and when you do on social media, YouTube, Facebook, all that kind of stuff, a lot of times when you hear men talk about stuff, it's really from what's known as like the red pill perspective, whereas it's kind of so far in one direction of one end of the spectrum of it can a lot of that can almost become woman hate, the she man woman hater club kind of thing. And a lot of it can get kind of far off into the weeds in terms of pushing that side of agenda. And we choose not to go that far. We have opinions, and those opinions, might differ a lot from what you hear on a daily basis, but we by no means hate women. I definitely don't. I mean, man, I love women. I need women in my life. You know, I got a mom, I got a wife, I got ex-wives, I got daughters. I mean, I got coworkers. I mean, I love women. I mean, I love a woman in that kind of way. But, but just in general, I mean, I need femininity in my world in order to see all of the colors of the spectrum of the rainbow. I don't want to see things through blue. I hang out with guys in guy times and guy spaces, but after a while it gets kind of boring hanging out with guys. I mean, because we generally do one thing and we do it well, and and it's cool when we do it. We go karting and all that kind of stuff. That's cool and that's fun. I had a bomb time, man. That was great. My forearms and hands were carpal tunnel when we were done, but so I dig that. I love playing golf, and when I do those kinds of things, honestly, I want to do those kinds of things with guys. When I go to a cigar shop, cigar lounge, and sit there and have a half a cigar. I want to do that with a guy. But there's other times when I want to do some stuff with my woman, with from a female. I want to experience some things from a female perspective because it's more vibrant. It's more, it just brings, technicolor to the movie of my life. And so we're not here from a woman hating perspective at all. Never are. But anyhow, so I think, from our perspective, we speak from a male point of view because you don't hear it a lot, and we do appreciate all the women that give us feedback and that say stuff in person and let us know what they think and all those other kind of things.
Yeah, I mean, for a lot of us guys, and we talk so much about how so many guys are getting isolated the older you get, and maybe you've had a couple divorces, or maybe you've never had a relationship, and you just get to that point where you just kind of isolate yourself because you don't know what else to do. A lot of times, it's that feminine perspective, it's that feminine energy that will light you up again, that will, you know, light that fire inside you. Because as men, just in our DNA, we want to be providers, protectors. When we don't have somebody to provide and protect for, we don't have somebody to give our opinions to and our insights to, we lose that half of it. And that's why this analogy is so good, because a lot of times what we're seeing nowadays is a lot of ladies are missing that masculine viewpoint. They're missing that masculine energy and feeling like they got to do it all on their own, and they're tired and they're upset and they're bitter because they don't realize that what they're being told out in the world is that you don't need a man, you can do it all on your own. But 90% of the infrastructure is done by men. And if you don't have that influence, you don't have that viewpoint of what a man does daily or what a man puts up with daily or what how his brain works, you miss half of that. And just like for us guys, when we don't have a lady in our lives to show us the beauty of things, to make our house a home, to do all these little things that makes things just better. You give a woman a house, she makes it a home. You give a woman a seed, she makes it a child. These are the things that men need. But when we don't have that, we're missing a complete half of the reality of the world. And we need to come together and realize that as men and women, we're missing half of what reality really is when we don't open up and accept the viewpoint of the other and don't even allow for that opinion, that viewpoint to come into our world, because it's you get so isolated and get so stuck in your little bubble and you're only seeing out that one colored lens. You think that's reality, but you're missing 50% of what the rest of the world has going on out there. And you need both sides to give you a fuller picture of what world and reality really is.
I think that was brilliant what you just said in terms of the whole idea of we the whole notion that you hear a lot in our culture. You don't need so and so. Ladies, you don't need I don't need no man. Really? You don't need no man, but when you're walking down a dark alley, you don't need no man, but when you're walking down the street, it sure is nice to have a good one on your arm to walk on the curb side of the street and make sure you're okay, make sure you're safe. I mean, really, ladies, I mean, you don't want your world to become man. When you don't have a man in your life, it's a lot easier and you're a lot more tendent. You have a tendency to become more masculine. Um, and so that's not cool. And from a guy perspective, yeah, no, we don't want, we don't want a life without women are the inspiration to a lot of things that we do. Every single that off the top of my head that I can think about, superhero man had a woman as part of his story. You think of a movie where there's a hero, a protagonist in the movie, an alpha guy. You tell me what Tom Cruise movie doesn't have a woman in the storyline. You tell me, any kind of movie like that that doesn't have a woman present. Even in the Wonder Woman movie, a man ended up sacrificing himself, taking the airplane and flying up in the air with a bomb and it blowing himself up so Wonder Woman didn't get hurt. So women can be the inspiration for us as men. And so, again, the whole notion that I don't need no woman in my life, my life was pretty cool before I had this woman in my life, but it's pretty dope with her in my life, man. It's pretty cool when you tired, you getting your butt kicked at work, and you come home and she wearing a little something, something, and you got a little aroma in the air from something going on the stove. I mean, I ain't mean to get too TMI, but I mean that's that's pretty dope, man. And so, we need to get out of the realm of I don't need no I don't need no man, I don't need no woman, whatever it is. I mean, we need to get out of that space and recognize the beauty in the complement of what we have and the fact that we need to work to complete each other. When I say complete, I'm talking about complement as opposed to compete with each other. That we need to get out of that space, man. It ain't cool.
Yeah, I mean, when you really take a step back and look and think about this just visual, you as a man are only seeing one half of the spectrum. You as a woman are only seeing one half of the spectrum. You're only seeing your half. And when you don't allow the other half in and blend those two halves, then you're not completing each other. And a lot of this divide and conquer, like Kirk was talking about in the beginning, is about separating us. So we're only seeing half the picture. We're only seeing half the stuff going on. And when it comes to relationships, a lot of the things that guys don't want to do, ladies do. A lot of things ladies don't want to do, guys want to do. And then you come together and you share those viewpoints, you share those energies, and now you have a more fuller life, you have a more fuller experience because you have both sides. And now you get to both be in your strengths, complementing the other. You get to both be in your strengths, creating something that is complementary to both. But when we keep getting divided and keep getting told we need to compete against one another, we're missing half the picture. We're missing half the benefit. We're missing half the beauty that comes from acknowledging and accepting and embracing the other half. And I know, guys, if you're a masculine man and you get a feminine woman, there's going to be challenges, but that's part of that beauty. You don't want her to be masculine. You want her to be masculine, go hang out with your boys and you can do that stuff. But like Kirk says, hanging out with your boys gets boring after a while. You want the beauty, you want the energy, you want the emotion that lights you up, that fills up all those little cracks and crevices that you're not even aware of when you're just doing your own thing, looking through your own lens. So we need both of each other. We need to complement each other. And that's how God created us, to be in complement of each other, because we both have our strengths and our weaknesses, and we need each other to balance that out. But when we just get stuck in that one lens, I mean, that's all you know, that's all you see, and then you miss out so much.
Yeah, when we go play golf, man, we need woods and we need irons. Sometimes you need some hybrids. I mean, it's one of them. That's a very simplified example of how you need everything in your bag, man, and you need everything that you got available to you to make your game whole and complete. Your putter, and some of us are hot garbage, and it don't matter what we use, we still gonna suck. But whatever, man. Point is, man, being able to have all that stuff, man. You need the salt and the pepper of life, man. You need all these kinds of things, and so when it comes down to to the way we interact, the way we live in our culture, man, and especially when it comes to relating, relationships, dating, all these other kind of things, man, sometimes we need to, even in the moment, step back and say, man, I'm really annoyed by this, but there's a gift in the way this person is, and there is benefit to me in the way this person is. And so, but that's really, man, that's really difficult to stop and think of in the moment. Like, man, when she's being emotional or when she's hormonal and all these other kind of things, here's where she's hormonal because she's a reproductive structure. I mean, that's why she is that way. I mean, and we're not a reproductive structure in terms of the cradle. Like you said, we're the seed planter. We're not the soil. And so, so we are more linear in those kind of ways. And from a lady's perspective, it's like, man, I wish he was. No, he's that way because of the role he has in your life. And there's beauty and there's fantastic in the way he is. And us as men, man, none of us would be on this earth if it wasn't for coming through a woman, right? Literally coming through a woman. And in the life that we have right now, we wouldn't have electricity, we wouldn't have cars, we wouldn't have airplanes, we wouldn't have skyscrapers. I mean, men have to register for the draft at 18, women don't. I mean, so on and so forth. That there, men have made this world a great place. Yeah, we all came into this world by a woman, through a woman specifically, but we go through life largely in the invention and creation and protection of what men have provided in our culture.
Yeah, and when it comes to relationships, and we got to get back to appreciation. Guys, you got to appreciate your woman for all the things that annoy you and for all the things because of all the beauty she brings. Ladies, you got to appreciate your man for all the things he does that maybe goes unspoken, maybe goes unappreciated. But I mean, to Kirk's point, 90% of the infrastructure jobs are men. So when you say, "Oh, I don't need no man," but you're living in a male-dominated, infrastructure, these are the guys that keep the lights on, keep the water flowing, stuff like that, unless you want to take over that job. And I say it all the time, jokingly, but seriously, in a way, if you don't need a man, move out in the woods and chop your own wood and kill your own food and farm your own stuff. And then, and I know there's ladies out there like, I do that. Great. You're part of the 1%. 99% of the ladies need men in their lives one way or another. But what we don't need is the disappreciation. What we don't need is the conflict and the competition. And we talk about it a lot, but one of the things that really is helpful, and there's two little questions for men and women. And if you can adopt these questions to your relationships, it's going to save you so much heartache and time, because we see through our unique lens and we communicate through our unique way of communication, and we think in our own unique way as men and women. So when you say things like, what I heard you say was, and what did you hear me say? Because we as men will communicate in our linear way, and we think this is logical. And what the ladies hear is, something completely different than what we meant or what we were trying to say. And so when you get triggered by what your man said, or when you get triggered by what your woman said, like, well, what did what did you hear me say? And what I heard you say was, and you'll, if you can actually adopt this in your relationship and make it a, it could be a game, it gets really funny because we don't hear what the other one's saying. 90% of the time, we hear our version of the words coming out of their mouth. And then we wonder why we're always arguing and upset because we're not hearing each other properly because we don't appreciate the other's viewpoint. We don't appreciate they're looking through a different lens, that they have a different processing system. Like some of us are on Android, some of us are on iPhone. We're operating on completely different operating systems, hearing things differently, seeing things differently, and from a different perspective. And that's where the beauty comes in when you can say, hey, what did you hear me say? Because what I heard you say was this, and that's how it made me feel. And they're like, that's not what I meant at all. I was saying X, Y, and Z. And you're like, oh, well, that's not what I heard. Well, if we don't appreciate the differences and we think everybody's got to be like us, we're missing out and we don't see the beauty that comes from both sides.
Yeah, along with that, in terms of communication, I found that intention is also something that can be misconstrued between the two. I did that because, like, the why. Why did you do that? I was I was I was trying to move us along schedule wise because we have a reservation at a restaurant. And I don't want us to miss the reservation because I want to. What you laughing at, man? Don't be laughing at me. I had a reservation at a restaurant, and I don't want us to miss out on the experience of the restaurant. And so that's why I'm kind of reminding you that it's 5:15 and the reservation's at 5:30. I know that's real specific, but mind your business. But and so intention, and then from the same time, it's like, on the other side of the equation, it's, well, why did you do that? Why were you, and so I think why has a lot to do with those communications and those interactions. So, man, I'm gonna leave my piece at this, man. I think, to your point, is a beautiful analogy. The first time I heard it was actually like it's a book and a conference that I went through, and I went through several years ago. And he was talking about marriage specifically, but it was about the pink lens and the blue lens, kind of a lot of the same things you were just talking about. And it was like, we got to understand that how I see things is how I'm either programmed or conditioned, biological, nature or nurture, whatever, to see these things. And I got to recognize that every way that I see things may not be the only way to see the thing. And so when we interact and engage one another, male to female, male to female, man to woman, husband to wife, boyfriend to girlfriend, whatever you want to call it, we got to understand that we need each other, man, and we are better together than we are apart. When I say need, there's a capital N need and a lowercase n need. You may not need the other person to physically live. You may be able to survive without the other side, but can you really thrive without the other side? And so we do need each other, to some degree, even if it's a lowercase n as opposed to a capital N. So I'm gonna leave my piece at that, man.
Yeah, when it comes down to, excuse me, when it comes down to the difference between men and women and acknowledging and accepting and appreciating those differences and knowing that the other side sees things differently, you can gain so much knowledge, you can gain so much wisdom, you can gain so much perspective by being willing to open up and realize that how you see it, how they see it are probably very different. And how you're operating. I mean, how men operate and their need for respect, how women operate their need for attention and love and safety and security, these generate different reactions. And so understanding that you're reacting differently to the same stimulus. It's the old car crash analogy. You can go look at a car crash, even have it on video, talk to 10 different people, you can get 10 different stories. They all saw it differently from their own unique perspective. It's the same in relationships. So we've got to acknowledge, accept, and appreciate there's a different perspective. And if I'm willing to be open to a different perspective and ask questions and understand a little bit, I might gain a whole new insight that I had never would have seen because I'm looking through a different lens. I don't have the circuitry and the upbringing and the capacity to see the way they see. And that's why us coming together as men and women and sharing those things in an open and honest way, and you can have fun with it. It doesn't have to be a battle all the time, but we're so conditioned to be divided and to compete nowadays that it's really hard to be open. So if you're in a relationship and you're having struggles, maybe you're not trying to see the other person's perspective. And if you do try to see the other person's perspective, you're going to realize real quick what you're thinking ain't what it is. And you might get a whole new respect for your man if you open up and ask him questions and allow him to answer. Gentlemen, you'll really gain a whole new perspective and an appreciation of your woman when you open up and ask her questions and see where she's coming from, because it's not where you're coming from. You guys are coming from different perspectives, and that's the whole beauty of having both lenses together, being able to see the whole 3D picture together and communicate together, because you're bringing in two different versions that brings in the whole picture. And that's where the beauty comes in. That's where the harmony comes in. And that's why we got to be together and love each other and appreciate each other. Stop competing. Start complimenting and creating a whole new version of that relationship. And that's my piece. I'm done talking. I love y'all. Hope you like us. If you don't like us, go ahead and try to cancel us. We'll still love that. And until next time, Madman out.